The Sumerians created these things in an effort to improve their lives, but must have arrived at the need for them through observation of an existing problem and proposing a solution which was then tested. Some scholars object to the use of the terms science or scientific method in referring to Sumerian Mesopotamian inventions and innovations because religion played such an important role in the people's lives, and the will of the gods was considered the final and only factor in how the universe and life on Earth operated. Even so, scientific method is the most precise term for how the people proceeded because the Mesopotamians, while keeping to a theistic concept of life, allowed themselves to imagine a world which operated according to certain natural laws, and in attempting to find out how, they laid the foundation for scientific inquiry which would later be developed by Egyptian and then Greek thinkers and would carry on to the present day. This is not to say the people of ancient Mesopotamia engaged in the same sort of scientific inquiry, in the same way one would in the present day, and those who object to the use of the word science or the term scientific method regarding Mesopotamia have a valid point. The Mesopotamians believed the gods had created order out of chaos and had then created human beings as their co-workers to maintain that order. Since the gods were the root cause of all things, seen or unseen, the goal of the various innovations or inventions seems to have been to understand how this order functioned and to labor with the gods to preserve it. This preservation took the form of improving upon the basic stuff of life the people had been given, and this required the people's observation, forming some sort of hypothesis of how an aspect of life worked, the trial of that hypothesis, and a conclusion. Although this follows the essential form of scientific method in the present day, the final reason for any observable phenomena was the gods. And so instead of asking why something functioned as it did, the question would be how it functioned and ways to improve upon it in keeping with humanity's role as co-workers with the gods. An ancient Sumerian farmer would not ask, "Why are my fields barren when my neighbor's fields are fertile?" because the obvious answer was that it was the will of the gods. The question would be, how do I influence the will of the gods to make my fields fertile? It could be that the gods simply required greater acts of devotion from that farmer, but it could also be that the gods wanted the person to do something he or she would not have done otherwise and so purposefully handed them this challenge so they would invent the system of irrigation and more people than just that one farmer would now have water for their land. Necessity seems indeed to have been the mother of invention. But these inventions were all in keeping with the underlying form of the gods' ordered world. Things were as they were, and one's task was to take up the challenges handed down by the gods, improve what could be improved, and accept what one could not change. The two Mesopotamian inventions considered most important are writing and the wheel. Although some scholars contend that the wheel originated in Central Asia because the oldest wheel in the world was found there, it is generally accepted that the concept originated in Sumer because of the production of ceramics. The wheel is thought to have developed from a need to make better and more pottery in less time. The potter's wheel was then adapted for the creation of carts and later chariots, for transporting goods and simply moving more quickly from one place to another. The same paradigm is thought to apply to the invention of the sail, which most likely began simply through the observation of the wind's effect on a piece of cloth, possibly when it was drying after being washed. A larger cloth, it would be reasoned, would catch more wind and could help one navigate the rivers more easily as well as faster. This would have been especially important in trade, since waterways were the preferred route, but it was more difficult and slower going making one's way upriver against the current than down. The sail would have remedied this problem by providing wind power to supplement or replace rowers. Writing was invented c. 3600. 3500 BCE, as a means of conveying information over long distances in trade. The earliest writing was rudimentary pictographs which could convey information along the lines of two sheep temple at Uruk, but could not clarify what the purpose of the two sheep was supposed to be, whether they were to be brought to or from the temple, whether they were dead or alive. Scholar Samuel Noah Kramer comments, "It was probably about 5,000 years ago that the Sumerians, as a result of their economic and administrative needs, came upon the idea of writing on clay. Their first attempts were crude and pictographic. They could be used only for the simplest administrative notations. But in the centuries that followed, the Sumerian scribes and teachers gradually so modified and molded their system of writing that it completely lost its pictographic character and became a highly conventionalized and purely phonetic system of writing. In the second half of the 3rd millennium BCE, the Sumerian writing technique had become sufficiently plastic and flexible to express without difficulty the most complicated historical and literary compositions. This writing system is known as cuneiform, from the Latin cuneus for wedge, because words were written by pressing a wedge-like stylus into moist clay which was then dried. The Sumerians themselves did not call their writing cuneiform. This is a modern-day designation, nor did any of the other civilizations which later used it.